Hello and thank you for watching. My name is Heather Alexandra, and today we're going to talk about the moments that make a masterpiece. I consider Planescape Torment to be the best game ever made, and I mean that genuinely. It's an amazing, amazing game. It's a deeply personal tale of magic and morality packed with amazing companions and some of the best writing to ever be put into games. Planescape is a D&D setting where belief is the most important force in the multiverse. If you believe in something strongly enough, it can and will happen. You can make plants grow, NPCs will narrate your actions before they happen, and entire planes of existence, entire worlds can be forged out of lost regrets and deeply felt emotions. With the recent release of the Enhanced Edition, I was eager, and honestly, really just kind of looking, for any excuse to go back and play this genuine masterpiece. In Planescape Torment, you play as the Nameless One, an amnesiac immortal looking for his past. You wake up in a morgue, make friends with a talking skull, who I'm pretty sure is voiced by one of the Animaniacs, and you set off on a journey that's much more concerned with the knowledge you gain rather than the enemies that you slay. The majority of the game is dialogue, but the ways that Planescape Torment rewards the player or wrests control from them are profound and effective. This game says just as much with its systems as it does with countless text boxes. To explore this, I want to look at two of the most powerful moments in the game, and seriously, right now, consider that your spoiler warning. I'm about to tell you what I consider the two best moments in the best game ever made. If you have any interest in playing this game, I encourage you, please go out and play it. Experience it for yourself. It's very important to me that you do. Early in the game, you meet a ghost named Dionara. She was one of your past incarnation's companions. Specifically, she was companion to one of your most ruthless selves, the Practical Incarnation. Eager to fight off a dangerous foe, he recruited her and a few others to head on an expedition into a dangerous, distant, negative plane of existence. Preparing for the possibility of failure, and believe me, the Practical Incarnation prepares for everything ever, the Practical Incarnation decides that he needs a spy in that realm. Dionara ends up becoming his unwitting choice. He seduces her, causing her to fall into a deep and everlasting love. As the final battle comes close, he professes his love to her, even though he intends to abandon her in that other realm. The goal is to send her to her death and use her love to keep her soul anchored to this level of existence, to use her as a sort of eternal servant and slave. Later on in the game, you can join the Sensates, a faction of hedonists and intellectuals who believe the goal of living life is to feel and see as many different things as possible. They maintain a library of sensory stones that contain vivid memories that you can relive. One of these is the moment that the Practical Incarnation tricked Dionara into pledging herself to him. The experience is harrowing. The lines between reality and memory begin to fade away. You are Dionara. You are the Practical Incarnation. You're both participant and observer, feeling everything as if the moment was happening right now while also watching it from a distance. It's completely overwhelming. Alignment is a major focus for Dungeons & Dragons. It helps establish just what type of character you are. Throughout Torment, you're able to shift between good and evil and neutral based upon your actions. Your morality falls upon this really wide spectrum, and you can pledge allegiance to different gods or different laws. Evil takes a very specific depth in Torment. You can engage in basic murder and theft, but you can also perform really depraved and twisted deeds. You can feed your companions to a column of sentient skulls just for shits and giggles. You can take advantage of a magically compelled demon's unbreakable vow to help you no matter what. You can literally go up to him and ask him to give you all of his stuff, and the vow makes him do it. It's kind of terrible. And yet, no matter how evil you are, the same thing happens no matter what when you relive Dionara's memories. You cry. This decision to force the player's character to emotionally break regardless of their alignment or past deeds is really bold, especially for the time. Torment's main vector for player expression is dialogue choices and moral decisions. It comes from how the player applies their knowledge of the world, what goals they decide is worth supporting, and the lengths that they'll go to achieve it. To seize control of their character is not just rhetorically powerful, but an important break away from the game's initial emphasis on player expression. You will cry at your misdeeds. That's how powerful and how horrible they were. Torment also uses experience points and statistics to form a coherent value system. Certain actions yield more experience. It's one thing to spend some time cleaning out cranium rats from the sewers, but it's another thing altogether to spend hours learning about your companion's religion, which you may have created in a past life. Knowledge and wisdom are incredibly important in Planescape Torment, and you often get more experience for just learning a new fact than you do for completing a fetch quest. Now, in theory, this has a downside. If players know the options that will get them the best results, won't they feel compelled to choose those options above all else? This is a problem that plagues all games that use experience points. You might ask yourself, why don't I just build a character with a high wisdom score, because it gives me the most dialogue options? The way that stats are used in games often show a certain emphasis and preference for certain decisions. To play the game optimally, you have to adhere to a certain character build and values. But without those values, the game couldn't have our next moment. This is near the end of the game. You've traveled to a distant realm to face a being called the Transcendent One. They are the literal manifestation of the mortality that was ripped away from you. Here, you need to face 3 aspects of yourself. You will deal with the practical incarnation, the good incarnation, and a chaotic paranoid incarnation. Talking with them and convincing them to merge with you grants you a ton of experience points and knowledge. With that knowledge, you can then open a plain bronze sphere that holds some of your past memories and learn your real name. This is what happens, and I want to read it because I think it's important that I do. The sphere wrinkles in your hands, the skin of the sphere peeling away into tears and turning into a rain of bronze that encircles you. Each droplet, each fragment that enters you, you feel a new memory stirring. A lost love, a forgotten pain, an ache of loss. And with it comes the great pressure of regret. Regret of careless actions, the regret of suffering, regret of war, regret of death. And you feel your mind begin buckling from the pressure. So much, all at once, so much damage done to others. So much so an entire fortress may be built from such pain. And suddenly, through the torrents of regret, you feel the first incarnation again. His hand, invisible and weightless, is upon your shoulder, steadying you. He doesn't speak, but with his touch you suddenly remember your name. And it is such a simple thing. Not at all what you thought it might be. And you feel yourself suddenly comforted in knowing your name, your true name. You know that you have gained back perhaps the most important part of yourself. In knowing your name, you know yourself, and you know now there is very little you cannot do. After this, the game grants you 2 million experience points. It's the single largest experience gain in the game. The sheer scale of it all communicates a lot about what the game thinks is important. It's not just knowledge that matters, but self-knowledge above all else. Assigning such an extreme experience score turns something as small as your name into the most sought-after thing in the entire game. Planescape is full of amazing moments. There's a brothel that's made for just satisfying intellectual curiosity, a flashback where you convince someone that they don't exist and they suddenly puff out of existence. There's a run-in with a member of the alphabet. Literally, he's a member of the alphabet. It's an amazingly imaginative and compelling game. These 2 moments that I've just shared with you are the best. They take the game's systems and turn them sideways for incredibly dramatic effect. That's a fitting case study for the greatest game of all time.